I never needed to. But if a guy points to another guy, says, he's just a JCL. He couldn't give you the gaff on a gamma joint. You know what he said?
No. Give me that again. What was that line?
Shill. That's the guy that walks up and wins a Cupid dollar or whatever. Gives it back to the guy that's running the booth later. It makes people think it's easy to win. He's a shill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a finger man is a guy, well, here, let's begin. You might as well tape this if you're going to begin there.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to do that. Remove this gel a bit.
The hell drivers, the death dodgers from being around the fairs and carnival lots so often, learned a little bit about carnival language, which has English words but altogether different meanings. For example, if you go to a fair or a carnival and right inside the gate there's a man with the scales who is offering to guess your weight, you know right away that that thing is crooked. Because in Billboard magazine, which is the Bible of the outdoor entertainment business, you will see ads saying, wanted scale man who speaks the language. They don't mean English. They mean a guy that speaks carnival talk. And here's the way it works. Somebody comes in and the scale man will say to him, hey there buddy, let me guess your weight. And if the fellow stalls a little, the guy may say, you're probably heavier than you look. Which means to the other carnival people that they should expect him to be that way. Then he'll say, I want to be sure I get this right. And he pats the guy a little bit. What he's doing is finding out which pocket his billfold is. If he says right, it means it's in the right pocket. And if it's heavy, or feels like it's got money in it, he'll say something like, you must be a little loaded. And that means he has plenty of money, apparently. And he goes all through this whole routine, and all he's doing is, in actuality, telling what they call the finger man, who is the fellow who follows him through the midway after he leaves the scale and points him out to the pickpocket. He's fingering him. And if he thinks his pocket is worth being picked, he'll convey all that to the finger man who follows him as soon as he walks away. And if the guy hasn't yet won anything, or his arms are free, the finger man will steer him into a man called Shill. And the Shill will get him to play a game where he wins something bulky, like a teddy bear, that he has to carry. The idea is to get something in his arms so he isn't so alert. Anyway, the Shill will see that he wins something, and then they follow him on down the midway, and the Shill will find out whether he's been drinking or not, and convey that to the dip, who is the pickpocket. And the dip is the guy who actually picks his pocket. If he has a billfold with money, he'll take maybe all but $10 and then put it back. So that when the rube, as they call him, or the victim, when the rube takes his billfold out, he still has some money in it. And he thinks, gee, these guys are honest. They gave me my billfold when there was money in it. He hasn't really woke up to the fact that most of it is now gone. But anyway, that's the way they work. It's the dip that actually picks his pocket, the finger man that points him out, and they'll have other guys that will, walking down the midway, apparently accidentally bump into him and cause a certain amount of confusion while he juggles his weight around that he's carrying and all that. But you got to remember, the rube is under control of them every step he takes after he leaves the scale. And that's one way they work that. And all the games on the midway can be gaffed in one way or the other, made so it's virtually impossible for you to beat them. And don't think you got a chance, because they know and you don't. And they'll take advantage of you every time. If you're supposed to knock something down with a baseball, they'll have cheap baseballs with thin covers, and they'll have a hypodermic needle with mercury in it. And they'll shoot that ball with mercury. And that mercury will move all around inside the ball's winding. It'll be first on one side, then on the other. When you throw the ball, it'll go almost in a spiral on account of being lopsided. You can't see that, but you can sure feel it. You hold the ball up and drop it, you'll see it go down in a spiral. It's got mercury in it. And there'll be other things they do. They have ways of blocking those iron milk bottles that you try to knock over by having a pin come up from underneath into a hole in the bottom of the bottle, and you couldn't knock it off of there with a ball bat. But you don't know that. And a show that is strictly honest, that doesn't have any of those things, is known to the Carnival people as the Sunday School. And if you go to a fair or a carnival and you don't see a scale at the entrance, ask one of the roustabouts or workers if this is a Sunday school. If he says yes, well, then it's safe to play the games.
I see.
But there's all kinds of variations. But believe me, they've got you covered. No matter what you do, you can't beat them, because they've got 3 months to earn a year's wages. And that means they've got to, on a percentage-wise, make that much more percentage of profit than some legitimate store. So they have to be geared up that way. You can't beat them. But it's interesting how they work. And if the guy says the hype is on, he means they charge too much for everything. It's hyped. And if the hype is on and hamburgers are selling for $1, you go up and lay down half $1 and say with it. If it's an old-time carnival, you'll get your hamburger for 50 cents because they think you work for the show. Or they may even ask you sometimes if you're with it. And you don't answer, you're not quite sure what they said. But if they ever ask that, say yes.
Because then they'll give you a discount.
Then you get the good price. But that's been going on for years and years. You know, in the old days when circuses and carnivals traveled by horse and wagon, the wagons were all specially built for them. Wheels, hubs, everything. And you couldn't take a wheel off of some other wagon and use it on theirs. It would never fit. So what the sheriff used to do when they went to a new town, he would go out, take off a few hubcaps, remove the nuts from the wheels, and keep them. And before that wagon could leave town, they had to go to the sheriff and get the nuts back. That became an expression for taking in enough money to make the overhead. One carney would say to the other, "Have we made the nut yet?" He meant that they have enough money to get the nuts back from the sheriff so they could leave town. All of which you didn't know.
That's right.
What-
And if the sheriff had anybody coming to him saying, "These people ripped me off," then he'd be prepared to do something about it.
He'd go out and look at the hubs. And if the nuts were on, he would take them off or say something to them. If the nut was already off, he knew he had them. When that guy come in to get the nuts for that wagon, he'd say, "You owe Joe Blow $5 or whatever it was." They had to bring in receipts for the hay and stuff they had bought in town in order to get the nut back.
That's pretty neat.
So in today's slang language, nut is still overhead. Show people still use it. Most of them don't know where it originated, but they still use it.
And it's the nut off the wheel.
Oh yeah. And it really meant something. Well, you know this thing where you go up and he gives you a big mallet and you pound on a thing and the slide goes up, and if you hit it the right way, it goes up hard enough and rings a bell at the top. You know what I mean.
Yes.
You've seen that?
Yes.
Well, you watch. If you can get a couple girls wearing nuns' outfits to go up to that thing, they'll kill that. They'll ring that every time. When you get some football player with big muscles and everything, he'll go up there and he won't do a damn thing. You know why?
Why?
Because that slide that goes up is sort of T-shaped. And they have guy wires at the top to hold the thing straight. And if he's got a husky guy swinging that hammer, the guy will say, "Stand back, he needs room." And he'll step over, and what he does is put his foot on one of those guy wires. And that kinks the top of that. And King Kong can't ring it. It'll go up maybe within 3 feet and stop, because that's where it hits the kink. But when the nun comes up, he won't step on it. And he'll show her, "Now, don't try to hit it hard, just hit it square. And if she does what he says, it'll ring." And she thinks she's awful tough. But the big guy will never ring it, because he'll have his foot on that guy wire. That's all there is to it.
Why would they give the nun a break?
Because everybody thinks if that little nun can do it, I'll knock the damn thing clear off. And they spend $10 trying to do it. That's why. Of course, the nun never knows why she can do it. She doesn't need to. But he'll fix it so nobody except who he wants to can ring it.
And he has something he steps on.
Yeah, a guy wire. One of the wires that holds that thing up. All he has to do is put more pressure on that one guy, whichever one, doesn't make any difference. Any one of them will put a kink in that thing enough to pinch that slide a little, and you can't ring it.
I'm glad I know that.
Or,
I'm going to be taking my little girl to a few fairs this fall.
all right, you take her to a fish pond. If the guy's business is slow and he's got some good-looking prizes around and business is bad, he may let that girl win something worthwhile. She'll pull out a fish or whatever, and he'll take it and read a number off of it. Number 35. "Hey, you win this nice big bear." and somebody 10 years old or 12 goes up, pulls out a fish, he says, number 13, you win a thimble, or whatever. What you don't know, there are 2 numbers on that fish, one on each side. He can read whichever one he wants to. Give you a good prize or nothing. You can't win.
At a fair.
If you go to a fish pond and you grab a fish out of that trough, you